You've probably heard the phrase, the ocean keeps its secrets. That's not completely true. Every so often it tries to tell us something. And that's when people start disappearing. The story you're about to hear didn't come from a movie script or a creepypasta thread. It came from a chain of real messages that began with one man, a hobbyist diver from Oregon who spent his nights scanning maritime radio bands for lost distress calls. In early 2024, he caught a pattern in the static. 5 slow beats, a 3-second pause, then 5 more. He posted about it online, asking if anyone else could hear it. Within 2 days, the post vanished. Within 3, so did he. No official report, no missing person case, just silence. But the audio clip survived. Copies spread through private chat rooms and oceanographic forums. People who played it described the same reaction. The sound seemed to vibrate through the floor, through their teeth, through the center of their chest. A few claimed that even after deleting the file, their phones kept humming, that the pattern started appearing in everyday noises, ceiling fans, refrigerators, the rhythm of their own heartbeat. When researchers tried to trace the origin, every coordinate led to the same region of the North Pacific, a stretch of open water nicknamed by sailors the Still Zone, where compasses spin and radio signals bend back on themselves. It's the same region where an independent research vessel called the Mariner's Call went missing while investigating an unidentified underwater anomaly. Only one piece of evidence was recovered, a weather-beaten recorder found floating near the Alaskan coast. Inside was a final transmission, time-stamped the week the crew vanished. That's what you're about to hear. These are the last words of Dr. Marcus Holloway and his team. What happened after this recording was never explained. Not by the Coast Guard, not by NOAA, not by anyone. So if you hear a pulse under the sound of the waves, 5 beats, pause, 3 seconds, don't listen too closely, because the ocean remembers every voice that answers it. Log 7. If anyone's hearing this, don't follow the sound. It's not what we thought. That's how the recording starts. No intro, no context. Just that voice, whispering through static. Desperate, scared, and absolutely certain. I didn't know it yet, but that voice would ruin my life. My name's Dr. Marcus Holloway, acoustic oceanographer. I've spent years listening to what the world can't hear. Whales echoing across miles of salt water. Icebergs cracking under pressure. Even the faint pulse of the earth itself. But this was different. The first time I heard Signal 19B, it was just another data blip. A strange frequency caught by NOAA's coastal monitors somewhere off Washington State. At first, I thought it was machine noise or sonar feedback. It came and went like a heartbeat. 5 beats. Pause. 3 seconds. Repeat. Every minute. I remember leaning close to my laptop speakers that night, in my home office, the window open to the sound of rain. My cat had stopped purring. The rain outside had slowed. It was like the whole world leaned in to listen. That's when I felt it. The sound didn't just hit my ears, it moved through me, like it crawled under the ribs, pressed against my chest, and whispered right into my bones. I don't scare easy, but I shut off the speaker, sat there for a long time, and said out loud, "What the hell was that?" I told myself it was probably an error, maybe equipment interference or a military test frequency. But when I looked at the waveform again, I saw something that didn't make sense. It wasn't random. The peaks were spaced perfectly, precise, intentional. And the longer I stared, the more I realized something. The signal wasn't coming from one place. It was coming from everywhere. I saved the file and logged it as unclassified anomaly. I wasn't supposed to, but I've always believed the ocean speaks to us in its own language. Maybe I just wanted to understand what it was saying. 2 days later, my inbox filled with messages from strangers, my listeners. "Doc, check this out. Same pulse. Picked it up near Monterey. You hear that tone again? It's spreading. This thing's alive, man." Somehow, they'd heard it too. By then, the story had already leaked online. a blurry post on Reddit showing a 1967 Navy logbook. It mentioned a small research vessel that vanished in the Pacific while tracking an unidentified transmission. 5 men lost. No wreckage found. The page had coordinates scribbled in the margin, the same region where Signal 19B was now being heard. Within hours, the post was deleted. But it didn't matter. Someone had already downloaded it and sent it to me. I opened the file that night. The scan was grainy and hard to read, but I could make out a few words: melting tissue phenomena, crude disappearance, ARS researcher. That was all it took. I was hooked. I didn't sleep for 3 days. My wife called twice, worried. I lied, said it was just a new episode of my podcast, Echoes of the Deep. But I wasn't recording episodes anymore. I was chasing ghosts through data logs. At 2:47 a.m., during a storm, my equipment came alive again. I didn't touch a thing. The waveform began drawing itself on the screen. 5 pulses 3 seconds apart, exactly like the first one. But this time, the amplitude was stronger, closer, and then my speakers whispered. Not sound, breath. That's when I knew this wasn't just an oceanic anomaly. Something, or someone, was answering me. If you're listening to this, you need to understand something. I didn't go looking for horror. I went looking for proof, for meaning, for the truth about what we think sleeps beneath the Pacific. But truth has teeth. And before we go further, before I tell you what we found, ask yourself this. If you heard something calling from the ocean, would you ignore it? Because if your answer's yes, you're lying to yourself. And if it's no, then you need to subscribe, because what follows isn't entertainment, it's evidence. And you'll want to remember every second of it. I needed a team, not because I wanted company, but because I knew if I went alone, I'd end up like those men in '67, missing, swallowed by salt and silence. The first person I called was Tanya Brooks. She wasn't a scientist. She was a documentarian, a storyteller. Her series Black Mysteries Unveiled had turned folklore into something you could almost believe. She had a way of making the unbelievable feel human. When I told her about the signal, she laughed. Not a mocking laugh, the kind that hides fear. So what are we talking about here? She asked. Government cover-up? Alien transmission? Ghosts? Not ghosts, I said. Echoes. Next was Darius Cole, an ex-Navy diver from New Orleans. He'd worked every salvage job worth talking about. Hurricanes, shipwrecks, even a few military recoveries that never happened. When I mentioned the coordinates, he went silent. My granddad used to whisper about that place, he said finally. Said it's where the sea keeps its dead. Then came Elijah Grant, a sound engineer from Detroit. He could pull a voice out of white noise like it was magic. The first time I sent him the audio file, he replied in less than an hour. Doc, this isn't random. It's structured, like something encoded in pulse trains. And it's evolving. When I asked what he meant, he said, it's not repeating exactly the same way twice. It's learning. The last person to join us was Captain Raymond Owens, retired Coast Guard, mid-60s, sharp eyes, and a voice like gravel. He'd lost 3 crew members on a mission in 1978, same region. When I told him where we were headed, he said one thing. You follow a sound long enough, you find the thing making it. But sometimes it finds you first. We left from San Diego Harbor, aboard a 70-foot research vessel named the Mariner's Call. It was old, patched up with duct tape and prayers, but it had heart. I could feel it. The morning we left, the ocean was still, the kind of stillness that feels like waiting. Tanya filmed everything, the equipment, the sunrise, our faces. Darius leaned over the railing, muttering something like a prayer. I remember the hum of the engine, steady and familiar. But beneath it, deep under the water, I thought I heard something else. A low, almost human sigh. We were about to follow a ghost into the deep. By the 4th day, the weather turned. The sky dimmed. The sea stilled. And in the dead of night, Elijah came running into my cabin, eyes wide, headphones around his neck. It's back, he said. The signal. But it's not the same. That was when everything changed. The first 3 days on the Mariner's call were uneventful. The crew laughed, adjusted gear, and made small talk. Tanya filmed everything, even meals. She said the comm was good setup footage, but I could tell it bothered her, like she was waiting for the punchline that never came. The ocean was flat, almost glassy. No birds, no other ships, just us and that heavy, gray horizon. Darius joked that it looked too calm to be alive. On the second night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to check the equipment. I'd been running a low-frequency hydrophone array, listening for anything that matched the signal 19B pattern. The monitors showed nothing unusual until the water temperature dropped. It happened fast, 8 degrees in under 10 minutes. The air got colder too, like we crossed an invisible line. The boat's hull creaked. Then the sound came back. 5 beats. 3 seconds. Repeat. I froze. Elijah, I called. He was already there, headphones on, hands shaking. It's everywhere, he said. Not from below. It's all around us. He turned the dials, filtering through static until the pulse filled the room. It was slower now, heavier. The sound of something alive, something that knew we were listening. Tanya rushed in with her camera, whispering, "Tell me this is a joke." "It's not," I said. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then held steady. Captain Ray stepped into the lab, his face pale. "That tone," he muttered. "It's the same one we heard in 78. I turned toward him. "You were Navy then?" He shook his head. "Didn't say Navy." "What were you then?" He looked out the porthole, where the sea was dead calm and colorless. "A survivor." No one spoke after that. At dawn, Tanya filmed a brief update on deck. The light was strange, flat, gray, no warmth at all. The ocean didn't move. Even the waves had gone silent. She said into the mic, "Every horror story starts with curiosity. But this isn't fiction. It's science chasing a ghost signal." I want to tell her to stop romanticizing it, but maybe she needed to. Maybe we all did. Darius was quiet. He kept glancing overboard like he expected something to surface. When I asked him if he was okay, he said, "I've seen still seas before, but never one that stares back." Around midday, Elijah found something in the recording data. "It's modulating," he said. "Every few cycles, there's a shift, almost like breath." "Breath?" I asked. "Yeah. Inhale, exhale, like it's mimicking respiration." He turned up the gain. The sound filled the cabin, rhythmic, haunting. Then, underneath it, a faint whisper. We all leaned closer. It was human. Tanya flinched. What did it just say? The playback looped again. Slowed down. The whisper came clearer this time. "Why did you come back?" I felt every hair on my arm rise. Elijah pulled off his headphones. "Doc, that's not from the equipment." Before I could respond, the power flickered again, harder this time. The monitors glowed bright green, pulsing in sync with the sound. Captain Ray's voice cut through the chaos. "Shut it off." Elijah hit the kill switch, and the room went black. No one moved. The silence that followed was worse than the sound itself. I heard my own heartbeat and realized it matched the pattern. 5 beats. Pause. 3 seconds. Repeat. That night, I sat on the deck with Tanya. The ocean looked endless, black glass stretching forever. I told her about the 1967 logs, how they mentioned melting tissue phenomena and loss of communication. She laughed quietly, but it wasn't real laughter. "You're not telling me that it made me feel better, are you?" "I'm telling you because I think we found the same place." She lowered her camera. "What happens when we reach it?" "I don't know." She nodded, then whispered, "I don't think the ocean wants us here." Later, I found Captain Ray alone in the control room, staring at the radar. He didn't notice me at first. His lips were moving. He was whispering to himself. "Ray," I said. He flinched, then forced a smile. "Just talking to the sea." "What's it saying?" He paused. "That it remembers me." By the 4th day, Elijah stopped sleeping. He sat at his console all night, headphones glued to his ears. I told him to take a break, but he refused. It's changing again, he said. Every time I listen, it's different. It's not just broadcasting anymore. It's responding. He showed me the data, overlapping waveforms, each with subtle differences. It wasn't just echoing, it was answering. Doc, he whispered, it's two signals now, like it's talking to itself. That's when I made the decision to deploy the deep-sea sonar. I wanted proof. I wanted something tangible, numbers, visuals, anything. We were 200 miles off the Washington coast now. No radio contact, no air traffic, just silence. When we dropped the sonar, it bounced back almost instantly. There's something down there, Darius said, about 11,000 feet deep. What kind of something? Tanya asked. Darius stared at the screen. Not wreckage. It's soft, soft. He nodded slowly, like the surface is moving. Elijah zoomed in on the sonar image. The return waves rippled across the screen, slow, rhythmic, pulsing like the signal itself. I swallowed hard. It's alive. Captain Ray turned off the engine. The sound faded into stillness. For a long time, no one spoke. Then the hum came again, louder than before, shaking the metal under our feet. Elijah's hands trembled on the controls. Doc, we're at the point of signal origin. I stared at the monitors. The numbers matched. The coordinates were identical to the 1967 log. Tanya whispered, "What now?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the signal wasn't below us anymore. It was inside the ship. The crew didn't sleep that night. The hum came through the hull, constant and low, vibrating in our bones. I heard whispering in my dreams, words I couldn't make out, but somehow I knew they were calling my name. When I woke, the first thing I saw was condensation on the window, words drawn into the fog. "We hear you." Tanya saw it too. She didn't film it. She just stared, breathing fast, whispering. That wasn't there before. We wiped it off. It came back an hour later. Different words this time. "Don't look down." Elijah came running from the lab, pale and shaking. "The sound, it's not external anymore." "What do you mean?" He pointed to the speaker. "It's coming through the metal, like the ship's playing it back." Captain Ray just stared out at the water. "It's awake now." I wanted to believe that was just poetic, just fear talking. But the ocean had gone completely still again. No waves, no wind, just that rhythm. 5 beats, 3 seconds, repeat, like a breathing god beneath us. "You're still watching." "Good. That means you feel it too. That pull in your chest when something unknown stares back. If you think this story ends in sunlight, you're wrong. Subscribe now, because once you hear what happened next, you won't sleep tonight. And you'll need someone to tell you you're not alone. At 3:14 a.m., the power flickered again. Elijah ran into my cabin, eyes wide, holding his laptop. "It's not a signal anymore," he said. "It's a voice." The lights died. The hull groaned. And then, clear as breath, from everywhere at once. "We've been waiting. We thought the worst was over after that night. We were wrong." By sunrise, the signal had stopped completely, like nothing had ever happened. The air was clearer, the sea calm again. Elijah said the readings were normal. Darius cooked eggs, humming old jazz. Tanya even smiled. It felt like waking from a bad dream. But the quiet, it was too perfect. Like the ocean was pretending. That morning, I noticed the compass on the navigation panel spinning, slowly in circles. No wind, no magnetic interference, just movement, lazy, endless rotation. I tapped the glass. It stopped for a second, then turned the other way. Ray noticed too. "It's playing tricks already," he said. "Tricks?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just wanted to check the deck. Around noon, Elijah called me into the lab. His eyes were sunken, his voice dry. "Doc, it's back," he said. On the screen, the waveform pulsed, faint, rhythmic, steady. 5 beats, 3 seconds, repeat. But it wasn't just sound anymore. Each pulse spiked across multiple frequencies, Acoustic, electromagnetic, even thermal. Like it was touching everything at once. Could be atmospheric interference, I muttered. Elijah shook his head. Atmospheric interference doesn't breathe. He zoomed in. Between each pulse, tiny modulations appeared. Irregular, human-like. I leaned closer. Is that? Voice patterns, he finished. It's trying to form speech. I told Tanya to film everything. She hesitated. Marcus, what if this isn't something we should record? If we don't record it, no one will believe it happened. She started rolling. The ship groaned beneath us. One of the lights flickered, casting shadows across the lab. The monitor glowed green, the pulses getting louder. The sound pressed against the walls, vibrating through the floor like a heartbeat too close to the ear. Then it changed. The rhythm stretched, paused, stretched again, and from the distortion came something alive. A whisper, soft, layered, like many voices speaking as one. You found us. I don't remember breathing for at least 10 seconds. Tanya's camera trembled in her hands. Elijah's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The waveform flattened. Dead silence. Then one more word. Again. The speakers blew. Sparks shot across the table. The lights flickered twice and died. I grabbed a flashlight. The beam cut through the smoke, revealing Elijah standing perfectly still. Doc, he whispered. It used my voice. We spent the next 3 hours checking every circuit, every cable, every instrument. All functional. Nothing damaged beyond the speakers. Yet somehow, the sound had jumped between our systems, even ones that weren't connected. When we rebooted the network, every file we'd recorded was gone. All except one. A single audio clip labeled 67_return.wave. I didn't name that file. None of US did. It was 47 seconds long. The sound started as static, then shifted into the same 5-beat pulse. But this time, under the hum, we heard a faint voice. A man's voice, distorted and trembling. Log 1. Position unknown. The signal has grown stronger. I can't tell where it's coming from. It's in the walls now. Ray froze. That's from his 67 logs. Could be an old recording. Tanya offered weakly. Elijah shook his head. No. Look at the metadata. Timestamp says September 25th, 2024. That's today. The voice continued. They're saying the same thing. Over and over. What are they saying? Another voice asked in the background, faint, afraid. We have reached the point of signal origin. And then, silence. The clip ended. Tanya turned the camera off. I think we should go back, she whispered. Ray didn't say a word. He just stared at the ocean, his jaw locked, eyes glassy like someone remembering a nightmare. That night, the wind returned, sharp, cold, cutting. The waves grew taller, white foam glowing under the pale sky. Darius said storms like that didn't come out of nowhere. Pressure's dropping too fast, he muttered. Something's forcing it. Something. Tanya asked. He nodded. Water doesn't move like that unless it's being pushed. By midnight, visibility was almost zero. We lost contact with the nearest coast station. Static on every channel. And through that static, faintly, the pulse came again. 5 beats. 3 seconds. Repeat. Elijah was shaking. It's copying our emergency signal pattern, he said. It's using our own code to talk back. Tanya's voice broke. So what do we do? Ray turned toward her, eyes hollow. We listen. I stayed awake through the night. Every sound felt wrong. The creak of the hull, the wind in the rigging, the slow roll of the sea. It all synced with the same rhythm. Even my heartbeat had started matching it. I went topside around 3 a.m. The rain had stopped. The sky was dark, but not black, just a flat, silver gray that swallowed the stars. The ocean shimmered faintly, like something glowing beneath it. At first, I thought it was bioluminescent plankton. Then I realized the glow was spreading. Lines of pale blue light traced themselves across the waves, curving, spiraling, like veins under skin. Tanya came up behind me with the camera. You seeing that? Yeah. The light thickened, swirling into shapes that almost looked human before sinking back into the water. Elijah's voice came over the radio, panicked. Doc, the signal's amplifying on its own. It's not just sound anymore. It's converting into electrical energy. The ship lights flickered. The deck vibrated. The glow under us flared bright enough to burn shadows into our eyes. Then everything stopped. The light vanished. The ocean went black again. Ray whispered, "That's the same thing I saw before they disappeared." Before who disappeared? Tanya asked. The first crew, he said quietly. The ones in 67. At dawn, the ocean was calm again. No glow, no sound. But every one of us looked exhausted, hollow-eyed, like we'd aged overnight. Elijah refused to take his headphones off. It's still there, he said, even in the silence. It's hiding between the frequencies. I took the headset and listened. Nothing but static. Then, buried deep, almost too faint to catch, a heartbeat. Mine. Except I wasn't wearing a pulse monitor. Darius was the first to break. Around noon, he started muttering to himself. When I asked if he was okay, he said, "They're whispering, just below the surface." "Who's whispering?" I asked. He looked at me with a kind of tired acceptance. The ones who didn't make it back. We pulled him inside before he tried diving in. He fought us at first, then stopped completely calm. "They're not dead," he said. "They're just deeper." That evening, I sat alone in the control room, listening to the static again. I told myself it was data, just data. But then I heard it, faint, distant, yet clear as breath. Marcus. My own name. Not through the speakers, through the metal walls. If you're still here, still breathing, still pretending this can't happen, think again. Because if sound can learn your name, it can find you. Subscribe before it does. The silence isn't safe anymore. The next morning, we found condensation on the inside of the ship's windows again. But this time there were handprints in the fog, dozens of them, all pressed from the outside. By the fifth day, sleep felt impossible. Every sound on that ship carried weight. The engine's hum, the scrape of metal, even the whisper of waves against the hull. They all had rhythm now. That same slow, breathing rhythm. I kept telling myself it was exhaustion. But exhaustion doesn't whisper your name. Tanya stopped filming. She said it didn't feel right to keep a camera running when the air itself felt alive. It's like it's watching through the lens, she said. Elijah kept wearing his headphones, mumbling notes to himself. It's adapting, he whispered once, like it's learning to mimic. And Darius, he barely spoke at all. That night, I went to check the sonar logs. At 2:16 a.m., I found something that shouldn't have existed, a secondary signal, echoing ours. It was delayed by exactly 2.8 seconds, repeating every cycle like a ghost trying to catch up. When I played it back, I realized it wasn't echoing us. It was repeating our voices. Every word we'd said since we left port. Whispered, distorted, layered like underwater screams. I froze. Tanya came into the lab, half asleep. "What are you listening to?" I turned the volume down, afraid she'd hear it too. Just background noise. She looked at me, studying my face, and I knew she didn't believe me. "It's copying us, isn't it?" she asked softly. I didn't answer. She nodded. "Yeah, I can feel it too." By morning, Elijah was gone. His headphones sat neatly on his chair. The recorder light was blinking red, still running. I hit play. At first static, then his voice. Calm, focused, like he was narrating something for a documentary. The signal's different now. It's not broadcasting. It's responding. I think it's trying to sync with me. Every time I speak, it pauses, like it's listening. A long pause. Then, I can hear it inside my head when I close my eyes. It's showing me something. Shapes. Colors that don't exist. I think I understand now why the others never came back. The clip ended with a deep, wet sound. Not human, not mechanical. just a pulse that rattled my teeth. I ran to the deck. The sun was pale and wrong, too bright, but cold. Darius was leaning over the railing, staring into the water. I shouted his name. No answer. When I got closer, I saw he was crying. His tears left faint trails of frost down his cheeks. "They took him," he said. "Who?" "The ones in the deep." "Darius. No one took him." He pointed down. "Listen." I did. At first, nothing. Then faintly, a voice. Elijah's voice, echoing up from below. "It's beautiful." We threw sonar into the water. It pinged off something massive, something moving slowly, directly under the ship. Ray came up from the cabin, his face gray. "Pull it up," he said. "We can't," I said. "If he's down there." "He's not," Ray snapped. "Whatever's speaking with his voice isn't him anymore." That's when the tapping started. Soft, rhythmic from beneath the hull. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, tap, tap. Morse code. Elijah had taught it to us on the first day. I am SDILL. HERE. The last sequence repeated 3 times before stopping. Darius dropped to his knees, gripping his head. "He's under us." "No," I said quietly. "He's inside it." If you've ever lost someone and thought they were gone, think again. The ocean keeps what it wants, and it never forgets a voice. If you're still here listening, subscribe before something out there learns yours. That afternoon, Tanya started hearing it too. She was filming a last entry, her hands trembling, her eyes bloodshot. "It's in the walls now," she said to the camera. "Everywhere I go, I hear it whispering my name. Sometimes it sounds like Marcus. Sometimes it sounds like my mom." She stopped filming mid-sentence. "Did you just call me?" she asked. I didn't say anything. I told her. She backed away, pale. Then who did? The ship groaned again. A long, low wail that sounded almost human. Ray shouted from the bridge, "All engines stop." The sound was shaking the metal, rising from deep beneath us. The temperature dropped so fast that frost formed on the windows. The hum grew louder, no longer a pulse, but a chorus. Dozens of voices speaking in rhythm, merging into one monstrous harmony. Tanya dropped her camera. "What are they saying?" I listened. I wish I hadn't. "Join us." The sound burst through every speaker, vibrating in the air like a living thing. The deck lights flickered, each flash revealing shapes moving under the surface. Pale, stretched, wrong. Darius screamed. I never heard him scream before. "Their faces," he yelled. "In the water." I forced myself to look. For a split second, I saw them. Human eyes staring up through the black, mouths open in soundless cries. Then the water went still again. Ray whispered, "That's what's left of them." Night came without warning. The sky just died. No sunset, no color shift, just gone. We sealed the doors, turned off all external lights. The hum never stopped. It followed us into every room, even when we stuffed our ears. At one point, Tanya started humming back. The same pattern, 5 beats, pause, 3 seconds. She didn't even realize she was doing it. When I stopped her, she blinked, confused. "I thought that was you. If you're thinking about turning this off, don't. Not because of me, but because of what happens when people stop listening. That silence you'll hear afterward, it isn't silence. Subscribe, or wait and find out what the deep really sounds like." By 3 a.m., I was alone in the control room. The others had locked themselves in their cabins. The hum pressed against the windows, stronger than ever. I checked the last sonar reading. Something enormous was moving below, slow, deliberate, alive. Its surface rippled like muscle under skin. Every few seconds, the pattern flashed bright, then dimmed, breathing. I felt my chest tighten. The hum vibrated in sync with my heartbeat again. Then, through the static, a voice I'll never forget. "We have reached the point of signal origin." The monitors exploded in white light. When my vision cleared, the cabin was empty. Every recording device was fried. Only one sound remained. The hum, echoing faintly from the walls, whispering, "Why don't you come see?" The storm lasted half a day, then stopped as suddenly as it started. No clouds moved away, they just blinked out. The sea turned still again, flat as poured glass. None of us said it, but we all knew this was the calm that comes before something changes for good. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. The hum had settled inside my skull, a vibration behind the eyes. When I shut them, I could see faint green waves like sonar ghosts. Ray was already on deck when I climbed up. He was staring at the horizon through a pair of binoculars, though there was nothing to see. "You really think this thing's natural?" he asked. "I think it's waiting," I said. He lowered the binoculars. "Then let's give it something to look at." We decided to send the deep-sea drone, an old, yellow submersible we called Eidolon, straight down into the coordinates we'd logged the night before. If the signal had a source, that machine would find it. Elijah's loss still hung over us like fog. None of us talked about him. We just moved through the motions, checking cables, charging batteries, tightening clamps, pretending that routine could keep us sane. Tanya filmed quietly. She didn't narrate anymore. The camera was just there to bear witness. Darius handled the tether winch. His hand shook, but he never looked up from the controls. At 11:17 a.m., Ray gave the order. Eidolon dive. The drone slid into the water with a hollow splash. On the monitor, its camera showed a circle of daylight shrinking above as it sank. 500 feet. Blue light faded to gray. 1,000. The color drained away completely. At 1,500, the sonar pinged back faint shapes, ridges that looked like rock, then shifted when we looked again. 2,000. The drone lights flickered, caught in clouds of tiny white particles. Not bubbles, something thicker, drifting like snow. "What's that?" Tanya whispered. "Organic matter," I said. "Could be plankton." Darius shook his head. "Plankton don't look like that." The flakes clung to the camera lens. When one drifted close enough to focus, I saw it wasn't a flake at all. It was a piece of skin. Human? Animal? I couldn't tell. It spun slowly, the texture almost identical to ours. At 2,700 feet, the signal grew louder through the hydrophones. 5 beats, pause, 3 seconds, repeat. Every pulse made the drone's lights dim for half a second, like the water itself was absorbing energy. 3,500. The pressure readings spiked, but held. Then the seafloor appeared. It wasn't seafloor. The ground looked soft, pale, uneven, rippling as the drone's lights swept across it. Veins of faint blue light ran through the folds, pulsing in perfect rhythm with the signal. "Tell me that's sediment," Tanya said. "It's not," I said. My voice sounded flat, distant. The drone's arm brushed against the surface. It gave slightly, like pressing a thumb into flesh. The pulse quickened. 5 beats became 6. The blue veins brightened, forming patterns, circles inside circles, like an iris contracting. Ray muttered prayer. "We shouldn't be down here." "Keep recording," I said. At 3,800 feet, the camera picked up movement ahead, slow, deliberate. Something large shifted just beyond the lights. Darius adjusted the focus. The outlines came clearer, curved structures like ribs, each one wider than our ship. Between them, darkness so thick it looked solid. "What the hell is that?" Tanya breathed. I zoomed in. There was texture, smooth in places, torn in others, and in one torn edge, something moved beneath the surface like muscle flexing under skin. "It's alive," Darius said. Before I could respond, the signal stopped. Total silence. Even the drone motors went still, as if the water itself had frozen. Then, faintly, through the speakers, breathing. Long, slow, impossibly deep. The surface under the drone began to rise. "Retract," Ray shouted. Darius hit the winch controls. The tether tightened. The camera tilted upward, catching a glimpse of the whole thing beneath us. An immense shape, almost featureless, stretching beyond the light. In the center, an opening, round, lined with folds of tissue, began to expand. The hum returned, louder than before, vibrating the ship's hull even for miles above. The opening pulsed once, twice, then a stream of dark fluid erupted upward, clouding the view. The drone feed went white with static. "Signal lost," Darius said. We reeled the tether back. When the drone surfaced, half its shell was melted smooth, metal warped like wax. No heat marks, just decay. That night, none of us spoke. The drone sat on deck like a corpse. Tanya finally broke the silence. "What did we just touch?" she asked. Ray didn't look at her. "Whatever it is, it's older than this ocean." I ran a scan on the drone fragments. The surface showed cellular patterns, living tissue fused with alloy. Darius muttered, "It's growing metal." The thought made my stomach turn. Around midnight, I heard a soft knock on my cabin door. Tanya stood there, pale eyes wide. "It's still moving down there," she said. "What?" I left a recorder running. "The hydrophones are picking something up. You need to hear it." She led me to the lab. The speaker hissed with static for a moment, then we heard it. Not the pulse, not the breathing. Something new. Words. Slow, deliberate. "We are not beneath you. You are within us." The voice wasn't human. It was made of layers, like hundreds of tones forming a single sentence. Tanya backed away from the speaker. "Marcus, what if this isn't a creature? What if it's the ocean itself?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. We spent the rest of the night trying to contact the mainland. Every frequency returned the same tone. 5 beats, 3 seconds, repeat. By dawn, the sea glowed faintly again, soft blue lines stretching to the horizon like veins under skin. I thought of the drone's melted shell, the way the tissue had flexed when we touched it. We hadn't found something sleeping beneath the sea. We'd woken it. The next afternoon, Darius started bleeding from his nose. He said he felt pressure in his ears, like being dragged downward. I told him to rest. He smiled weakly. "It's calling me. Document same way it called Elijah." I tried to argue, but the words sounded hollow even to me. Tanya locked herself in her cabin. I could hear her talking through the wall, low and rhythmic, as if she were repeating something whispered to her. Ray stood at the helm, staring at the radar. He didn't move for hours. When I finally asked what he was doing, he said, "Listening for it to breathe." That night, I went back to the deck alone. The sea was glowing again, faint lines spiraling outward from beneath us. Each pulse rolled up through the hull, through my shoes, through my body. I realized then that the hum wasn't sound anymore. It was heartbeat. Ours. When I tried to record a note into my log, the device clicked but wouldn't start. The screen lit up with text I didn't type. Log 7. If anyone's hearing this, don't follow the sound. The same words that opened this story. I dropped the recorder. Below me, the water shuddered, and the hum deepened into something that felt like a pulse the size of the world. I thought Elijah's final words. "It's beautiful." He hadn't been wrong. It was beautiful, in the way a storm looks beautiful before it tears the world apart. I whispered into the wind, "We're sorry." The sea answered, low and endless, "Not yet." By the next morning, the glow was gone, but the smell lingered, a faint, metallic sweetness like blood and salt. It clung to our clothes and skin. The drone lay on deck, cracked open along its seam. The metal inside had softened, pale threads growing through the joints. When I touched one, it felt warm. Tanya stood beside me, arms folded tight. "Is it alive?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. The word alive didn't seem big enough anymore. "It's something that reacts," I said finally. "That's all I know." Ray joined us, carrying coffee that no one drank. His voice was flat. "We're turning back after today. I don't care what that thing is. We're leaving." No one argued. We all wanted to believe leaving was still possible. By noon, the water started to move again. Not waves, more like breathing. The ship would rise, then dip, on a rhythm that matched the hum. Every swell came slower, deeper. Darius checked the engine room. When he came back up, his face was wet with sweat. "The intake valves are pulsing," he said, "like something's pulling water through the hull." We followed him down. The walls throbbed gently, almost imperceptibly, as if the metal were stretching and relaxing. A low vibration moved under our feet, steady and patient. Ray whispered, "This ship's not ours anymore." Around 3 p.m., the temperature dropped again. Frost formed along the handrails, though the sun was still out. Tanya filmed the condensation on the glass. "It's breathing," she murmured. "Every few seconds it exhales through the vents." I wanted to tell her to stop filming, but I couldn't. The lens caught something our eyes couldn't see. Faint, twisting strands of light moving through the metal. They looked like veins under skin. Darius backed away slowly. "It's in the ship." Before I could respond, the power surged. Lights flashed, equipment rattled. Then everything died. The only illumination came from Tanya's camera screen, cold blue, flickering across our faces. Somewhere below deck, something moved. It was heavy, wet, and slow. We stood still for a long time, listening. Then Darius whispered, "Bilge compartment." He grabbed a flashlight and started toward the stairs. I caught his arm. "Don't." He shook me off. "If something's down there, we can't just wait for it." The footsteps faded as he went below. The light from his flashlight blinked between the railings, then vanished. Minutes passed. Then came the scream. Not fear, pain. We ran down the narrow stairwell, the metal cold under our hands. The air smelled wrong, like rust and rot. When we reached the lower deck, the floor was slick. Darius was lying against the bulkhead, breathing hard. His flashlight rolled in circles, throwing wild shadows. "Don't touch me," he said, voice hoarse. I crouched beside him anyway. His sleeve was torn. The skin underneath was red and blistered, like he'd touched something hot. But the air down there was freezing. "What happened?" He pointed at the wall. The steel plating was bulging outward. At first I thought it was a trick of the light. Then the bulge twitched. A small patch of metal peeled open, revealing something like raw tissue underneath. Pale pink, glistening, pulsing slowly. Ray swore under his breath. "It's growing through," I said. The patch tightened again, sealing shut as if nothing had happened. Darius tried to stand, but his leg gave out. "It grabbed me," he muttered. "Felt like skin." We carried him back to the galley. His pulse was irregular. His breath came in short bursts. Tanya filmed in silence until I told her to stop. Ray set Darius down on a bench. "We need to cauterize that burn," he said. "It's not a burn," Darius whispered. We looked. The blistered area had changed color, gray, almost metallic, with thin blue veins running through it. He saw our faces and started to cry. "It's inside me, isn't it?" No one answered. Night fell early. Ray locked the engine room, then welded the hatch shut. We stayed in the galley, lights dimmed, the ship creaking in rhythm with the sea. Tanya filmed again, whispering questions to herself more than to us. "What if this isn't an infection?" she asked. "What if it's a conversion?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Around midnight, Darius stopped talking. His breathing slowed until it matched the pulse coming through the hull. When I checked his wrist, his veins were glowing faintly blue. "Ray," I said quietly, "get the med kit." By the time Ray returned, Darius's eyes had gone completely white. He smiled faintly and whispered something. I leaned close. "It's warm down there," he said. "It's waiting for us." Then he stopped breathing. We wrapped him in a tarp and carried him out to the deck. The sea was calm again, glowing faintly. When we lowered him over the side, the light brightened, spreading outward like ripples of recognition. Tanya turned away. "It wanted him," she said. Ray didn't respond. He just stared into the water, jaw tight. The glow lingered for several minutes before fading. When it was gone, the hum returned, softer now, almost gentle like satisfaction. We stayed on deck until sunrise. None of us wanted to sleep below. The morning air was clear, sharp, silent. Tanya asked, "Do you think he's gone?" I wanted to lie. Instead, I said no. She nodded slowly. "Then we're not either." Later that day, I checked the drone footage again. Most of it was static, but near the end, one frame stood out. A shape moved beneath the glowing surface, human, or close enough to fool the eye. It was wearing our crew uniform, Darius's uniform. By afternoon, the signal returned, louder and clearer than ever. The 5-beat rhythm had changed slightly. Now it matched Darius's recorded heartbeat from the medical logs. Tanya whispered, "It's using him." Ray slammed his hand against the console. "We're done listening to this thing." He pulled the main breaker. The ship went dark, but the sound didn't stop. It came through the hull, through the floor, through our own bones. Every beat shook the air like a second heart inside the ship. Tanya covered her ears and screamed. I felt something wet on my hands. When I looked down, small droplets were seeping from the metal floor, clear at first, then red. Blood. The hull was bleeding. Ray turned the power back on and started the engines. "We're leaving," he said. The hum grew louder, resisting the thrust of the propellers. The ship vibrated like it was trapped in thick syrup. "Speed's dropping," Ray shouted. "It's holding us." The gauges spun wildly. The hull flexed again, groaning like bone under strain. "Full throttle," I yelled. The engines roared. For a moment, we moved. Then something below slammed into us. A dull, massive impact that sent all of us sprawling. The lights died again. When they came back, Tanya was gone. We searched the entire ship, calling her name. No response. Only the low, steady hum, stronger than before. In the corridor outside her cabin, I found her camera lying on the floor. The last clip was still recording. The footage showed her standing at the railing, whispering into the dark water. "I see you now." Then the camera tipped, showing her hand reaching forward, fingers brushing the surface. The glow flared once, blinding white. The feed cut. I went back on deck. Ray was at the helm, face blank. "She jumped," he said softly. "No." It pulled her. He didn't argue. The glow was spreading again, thin filaments tracing up the sides of the hull. They pulsed softly, like veins feeding into something larger. I pressed my hand to the rail. It was warm, and beneath the warmth, I felt a faint vibration, a heartbeat that wasn't mine. The ship was part of it now. We drifted through the night without speaking. I kept hearing Tanya's voice in the static, faint and melodic, repeating the same line. "It's beautiful." Same words Elijah had used. Same tone. I tried to record it, but the microphone melted into silence. Near dawn, Ray came to me, eyes red. "We can't win against this," he said. "We can still leave." He shook his head. "It's not about leaving. It's about remembering." "What?" He pointed toward the sea. "That thing isn't new. It's been here forever. We just forgot." I stared at him. "Forgot what?" He smiled faintly. "Who built it?" Before I could ask more, he walked out to the deck and stood at the edge. The water began to glow again, rising in slow spirals. "Ray," I shouted. He looked back once calm. "I just want to see her face again." Then he stepped forward. The sea took him gently. The hum stopped. For the first time in days, the silence was total. I stood alone on that deck, surrounded by stillness, watching faint blue veins crawl across the metal, listening to the last echo of my heartbeat fade into the deep. And somewhere below, something enormous exhaled. For a long time after Ray stepped into the water, I didn't move. The ocean had gone quiet again, glass smooth, stretching to the horizon like it had swallowed every ripple of the world. I told myself I was the only one left, but the ship didn't feel empty. Every sound, the creak of a pipe, the faint hiss of the wind, carried weight, like it was waiting for me to answer. The hum was gone, replaced by something quieter, breathing, not through speakers or metal, but through the air itself, as if the ship had lungs now. I walked through the corridors slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand. The walls were damp, not with water, but with a thin layer of condensation that felt warm to the touch. Each step left a faint imprint that faded after a few seconds, like the metal was healing. The galley smelled faintly of coffee and salt. Darius's cup still sat on the counter. Tanya's camera rested where she'd left it, the screen cracked but still flickering. When I picked it up, the screen came alive for a second and showed a frozen frame. Tanya's face, eyes wide, mouth half open like she was about to speak. Then the screen went black again. I whispered into the dark, "I'm still here." A moment later, a soft voice, "Mine, but not mine," echoed back, "We know." Around midday, the lights came on by themselves. No generator, no sound, just light. Every bulb glowed the same dull blue as the veins that had crawled up the hull. I stood in the control room, staring at the compass. It no longer spun. It pointed straight down. The radio crackled once. A whisper, faint and broken. "Do you see us now?" I grabbed the microphone. "Who is this?" Static. Then laughter, soft and thin. The kind of laughter that's meant to sound friendly, but isn't. I shut the radio off and sat on the floor. The metal was warm beneath me. I wanted to believe I was still on a ship, still above water, but everything in me said that wasn't true anymore. The air felt heavier, thicker. My breath came slower. It was like the ship and I were breathing together. That night, I dreamed of the ocean's surface opening like an eye. It blinked once and I saw all of us inside it. Elijah, Tanya, Darius, Ray, drifting in slow circles. Their faces were calm, peaceful. When I reached out, the water turned solid. My reflection looked back at me, smiling though I wasn't. I woke up to someone humming. 5 beats. Pause. 3 seconds. I followed the sound to the corridor near the engine room. The welded hatch Ray had sealed days earlier was open. The edges glowed faintly blue. Inside, the air pulsed. Every few seconds, the pressure shifted, an invisible heartbeat that made the lights flicker in rhythm. I took one step inside. Something whispered from the shadows, low and familiar. "Marcus." I froze. The voice sounded exactly like Tanya. I raised my flashlight. The beam hit the far wall and caught the outline of a handprint, small, human, glowing softly against the metal. Then another appeared beside it, and another. They weren't burned in or drawn. They just appeared, pressed from the inside out, as if the ship were remembering touches that had already happened. I stumbled backward and hit the ladder. The hum returned, faint, steady, patient. I climbed back up to the deck, trying to breathe. The night sky looked wrong. The stars were scattered in patterns I didn't recognize, clusters bent into spirals. Below, the sea was glowing again, thin lines of light forming slow, circling movements around the hull. For the first time, I realized the ship wasn't drifting. It was being carried. The surface rippled like fabric stretched tight, and under that fabric something massive shifted. When the motion stopped, the lights along the railing blinked twice, then held steady. A soft tone followed, one long, low note that vibrated in my chest. I understood, without knowing how, that it wanted me to look below. I leaned over the railing. The water reflected my face, then blurred, then changed. Tanya looked back. She smiled. Then her reflection faded into the deep. I sat on the deck until dawn, staring at the horizon that never came closer. The sky brightened, but never turned blue. It stayed gray, endless. Every few minutes, I heard footsteps below deck, slow, careful, stopping when I stopped. Once I caught a glimpse of movement through the porthole, a shadow crossing the hallway, tall, fluid, like it remembered being human. I locked every door I could. It didn't matter. The ship unlocked them again. At noon, I found a notebook in Ray's cabin. The cover was soaked, pages swollen, but the writing inside was still legible. He'd been keeping a log after I stopped. They aren't gone. They've merged. The signal isn't just sound, it's memory. The ocean is building something from what it remembers of us. The last line was smudged, but I could make out a few words. When it finishes, it won't need the sea anymore. I didn't know what that meant, but the weight in my chest told me it was true. That evening, I heard voices again, hundreds of them, layered like waves crashing over each other. They weren't calling for help this time. They were talking to each other, repeating short fragments of sentences. The sound is home. We are the echo. It's learning to breathe. I pressed my palms against my ears, but the words didn't stop. They came from inside my head, clear and steady. Then one voice separated from the rest. A woman's voice. Tanya's. You should have stayed with us. I said her name out loud, but only silence answered. As the day faded, I turned the camera on myself for the first time since we left shore. The lens reflected two small blue lights in my eyes that weren't from the cabin. I spoke quietly. If anyone finds this recording, don't follow the coordinates. Don't listen to the sound. The deeper you go, the more it knows you, the more it becomes you. I paused, then whispered. I think it already knows my voice. The hum answered from the walls, low and gentle. Always did. I stopped keeping time. There were no days or nights anymore, just light that dimmed and brightened without warning. Sometimes I'd wake up and feel sure I'd slept for hours. Other times I couldn't tell if I'd slept at all. The ship had taken on a pulse of its own, slow, even the same rhythm that had followed us from the first signal. It was comforting at first, like a heartbeat you can rest against. Then I realized I was breathing in time with it. I tried counting seconds to break the pattern, but my breath always slipped back into sync. I talked to keep myself grounded. I'd walk the corridors, speaking softly into the recorder. Observations, coordinates, theories. Anything that sounded like a man still thinking clearly. Water temperature stable. Light source faint. Possible interference on internal comms. When I played the recordings back, my voice sounded wrong. Slower, deeper, as if someone else were repeating after me half a second later. The echo had words I hadn't said. We are still here. At first, I thought it was a glitch. But when I stopped recording, I could still hear it. A faint breath between the words, a quiet repetition in my own voice. Food didn't taste right. The air smelled faintly of iron. When I touched the walls, they were warm, as though the ship were holding a low fever. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps ahead of me, steady, deliberate, always one step beyond the beam of my flashlight. When I turned the corner, nothing, but I'd catch the faint smell of salt and wet rope, the same scent that used to follow Darius after his shifts. I started talking to them. Ray, I'd whisper, you still out there? No answer. Only the creak of metal shifting slightly, the whisper of something brushing along the hull. After a while, my thoughts began to echo. I'd think about turning left, and then hear my own voice, quiet but clear. Left. If I ignored it, the whisper came again, louder. If I obeyed, the silence returned, just for a while. I tested it once, thought of something impossible. Jump overboard. The whisper answered instantly. Not yet. I moved through the ship, trying not to think, trying to keep my head empty. But silence has its own gravity. The less I thought, the more I heard. At first, it was simple, a word, a phrase. Then full sentences, spoken in tones that could have been mine. You brought us here. You opened the door. Now you have to stay. I pressed my palms against my ears. The voice wasn't coming from outside. It lived in the space behind sound, in the pause before I spoke. When I said, stop, it answered, I can't. I started avoiding mirrors. My reflection had begun to move a fraction slower than I did. A lag too small to be sure, but too real to ignore. Once as I leaned close to wash my face, the reflection smiled before I did. That was the last time I looked directly into it. The camera lenses around the ship still powered on by themselves. Sometimes, I'd wake to the faint click of a shutter. When I checked the footage, It was all empty corridors and doorways, slightly ajar. In one clip, there was a shadow standing at the helm. It had my posture. I began hearing music. Not a melody exactly, just tone and rhythm, like someone trying to hum a song they didn't know. The pitch matched the signal's frequency. It filled every corner of the ship, faint but constant, like a thought too loud to ignore. I recorded it once, hoping to prove it was real. The playback showed silence for the first 10 seconds, then my voice whispering, "Do you understand now?" Except I hadn't spoken. The notebook I'd taken from Ray's cabin kept falling open to the same page. He'd written one line across it in rough pencil. "It talks like you because it listens better than you do." I tore the page out and threw it overboard. The next morning, it was back on the desk, dry, edges uncreased. When sleep came, it brought memories that weren't mine. A hand on a sonar console, a laugh I didn't recognize, a city street at night, scenes that felt like they belonged to 100 different people, all threaded together by one constant sound, that slow, patient hum. I started to realize that maybe the signal wasn't invading us at all. Maybe we'd been part of it the whole time, and the ocean was just reminding us. I tried to send one last message through the emergency transmitter. The light blinked, but no sound came out. Then the speaker came alive on its own. My own voice answered. Transmission received. The light turned steady green. Message complete. I hadn't said a word. The ship's pulse slowed that night, deeper, quieter, until it felt like the whole world had stopped breathing. In the stillness, I thought I heard another sound, a whisper of wind, faint and high. I walked to the deck, half believing that maybe the air had shifted, maybe land was near. But the horizon was empty. The light under the water pulsed once, twice, and in that glow I saw shapes forming, lines that curved into letters. They spelled one word, home. I stayed there for hours, trying to decide what it meant. Was I still on the surface, or had the ship already sunk and I just hadn't realized it? Was I breathing air or something else? I put my hand on the railing. It was warm. The rhythm beneath it matched my pulse exactly. For the first time, I didn't try to pull away. The whisper came again, softer now, inside the back of my head. You see, you've always belonged here. I woke to the sound of rain, or something pretending to be rain. It pattered on the deck in a rhythm too steady to be natural. 5 soft beats, pause, 3 seconds. The same pattern that had followed us since the beginning. The air smelled sharp, metallic, like the moment before lightning. When I stepped outside, the sky had no color at all, just a gray so thick it felt solid. The sea looked flat, but under the surface something was moving. I could feel it, not with sight, but with pressure, a weight pressing against my chest every time it shifted. For the first time in days, the hum was gone. In its place came silence so deep that it made the world feel hollow. I walked to the bow and leaned over the railing. The water beneath was clearer than it had ever been, so clear that I could see the shape of the ship reflected perfectly, except it wasn't a reflection. The image beneath didn't match our movement. When I turned left, the shadow ship below stayed still. When I stood still, it turned. It was like something beneath us was watching through its own mirror. I whispered, "Where are you?" The answer came not as sound, but as pressure, a pulse that rolled through the deck, up my legs, through my spine. It wasn't angry. It wasn't kind. It simply was. Then, faintly, across the horizon, light began to rise. Not dawn, not sunlight, but a deep, slow glow that spread across the water like veins opening. The glow thickened into columns that reached toward the clouds, bending as if the sky itself were bowing. Every instrument on the bridge came alive. Compasses spun, gauges trembled, the radio clicked, and a voice, my voice, spoke through the static. The entity has surfaced. I froze. It wasn't a recording I made. The phrasing was clinical, detached, like someone logging an observation. Atmospheric disturbance increasing. Structure emerging. The deck trembled. Out on the horizon, The sea bulged upward, folding into itself until a shape broke the surface, immense, colorless, moving with impossible grace. No edges, no limbs, just motion. Every rise of water revealed something smooth beneath, like skin made of light. For a moment, I thought I could see faces in it, fleeting, soft outlines of human expressions that melted as fast as they formed. Tanya, Darius, Ray, Elijah, each flickered into existence and faded, like memories trying to remember themselves. The voice from the radio kept speaking in rhythm with the pulses underfoot. Contact achieved. Integration stable. Memory transfer in progress. I ran to the control panel and yanked the radio cord. The voice didn't stop. It was everywhere now, inside the air, vibrating through the metal, repeating my own word from hours ago. If anyone finds this recording, don't follow the coordinates. The deeper you go, the more it knows you. It wasn't mocking me. It was finishing my thoughts. The ocean wasn't repeating. It was remembering. I realized then that the signal had never been calling for help. It was calling to itself. Every time we listened, we gave it another piece of us to work with. Every word, every breath, every heartbeat, stored, copied, rebuilt in water and light. That was the meaning of the phrase from the logs. The point of signal origin. It wasn't a location. It was the moment the ocean learned our shape. The sky split open with a single flash. No thunder, just soundless brightness that turned the air white. The water beneath the ship glowed brighter until it hurt to look at it. For a heartbeat, I saw the entire surface alive with lines and symbols, geometry woven through the waves like writing too ancient to understand. Then the brightness dimmed, and the radio whispered one last line. Completion imminent. I stumbled to the cabin and tore open Ray's logbook. The last page had changed again. The handwriting was mine now. It said, "We're surfacing." I don't remember writing that. I sat down by the window, staring at the faint shimmer spreading across the glass. It pulsed once, then steadied into a faint, human rhythm. 5 beats, 3 seconds. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid. Just small. Like the ocean had been patient all along, waiting for me to see what it really was. Not a monster, not a god, but a memory too large for us to comprehend. I switched the recorder on. My hands were steady. My voice wasn't. This is Dr. Marcus Holloway. Final entry. If you hear this, turn back. Don't analyze it. Don't record it. Don't listen. It doesn't want to hurt you. It just wants to remember. And once it does, it keeps you. I paused, hearing faint breathing behind my words. The echo always half a breath slower. Maybe that's what we've been doing since the beginning. Trying to be remembered. The radio light flickered again. A second voice, gentle, identical to mine, repeated. Trying to be remembered. I exhaled, closed my eyes, and pressed the transmit button one last time. Signal log complete. Then the light turned steady green. Outside, the sea glowed brighter until everything looked like sunrise. The recorder light stayed green, steady and calm, even after I stopped speaking. The sound outside softened until it wasn't quite hum, wasn't quite wind, just breath. Every few seconds, the deck gave a small sigh. I sat on the floor of the control room and listened to the ocean breathing with me. It was the first time in weeks that I felt anything like peace. I thought about the people who had followed the signal before us, the crew in 1967, the voices on the old tapes, the men who tried to explain the unexplainable. We all came here looking for proof. None of us thought that proof might want something back. Through the window, the horizon had changed again. The gray was thinning, replaced by a light that wasn't sunlight, softer, like a reflection from something far below. When I leaned close to the glass, the reflection wasn't mine anymore. It was moving a little slower, smiling a little longer. I whispered to it, "I'm not afraid." It answered with a faint vibration in the window pane, the same rhythm as my heart. I went back to the recorder. Its screen flickered, showing lines of text that scrolled on their own. Coordinates. Then a phrase. Transmission active. The microphone picked up faint noise from outside. Static, water, something that might have been a voice carried by distance. I leaned close and spoke softly. To whoever's listening, you don't have to come out here. You don't have to find us. Just remember we existed. That's enough. I waited for a reply. Nothing. Then, faintly, a second voice joined mine in the playback. Overlapping, half a second late, repeating the same words. Every syllable matched except the last. Where I said, "That's enough," the echo said, "That's home." The deck tilted gently under my feet. The compass needle had stopped pointing down. Now it turned outward, toward open water. The ship was moving again, slow but deliberate, as if something beneath was guiding it. For a moment, I believed I might actually make it back. The radio crackled once, and a burst of normal static filled the room. Human static, not the pulsing kind. Then a fragment of a weather report came through. Station Echo 19. Repeat. Unknown vessel detected drifting north by northwest. The signal broke. I shouted into the mic. "This is Dr. Marcus Holloway, aboard the Mariner's call. Can you hear me?" Static. Then my own voice, calmer, answering. "We hear you." I laughed once. It sounded small in the empty room. It didn't matter whether there was real contact or another echo. At least the words reached somewhere. The hum returned, low and steady, threading through the static until they became one sound. I switched the recorder back on. If this reaches shore, archive it. Don't try to clean the noise. It's not noise. It's the ocean remembering. Tell my wife. Tell her I wasn't afraid at the end. I stopped, listening to the way the hum filled the spaces between my words. It didn't feel hostile anymore. It felt like someone finishing a sentence for me. The light outside grew brighter, filling the room with colorless glow. Everything looked washed clean, as if the world were being rewritten in simple lines of sound and light. I left the recorder on the console and walked to the doorway. The air was warm. The sea stretched out smooth and endless. The glow rose until it surrounded everything. I said the last thing that came to mind. We have reached the point of signal origin. Then I stepped forward into the light. Afterward, 3 days later, a fishing vessel found the Mariner's call drifting 20 miles off the Alaskan coast. No crew, no signs of struggle. The log recorder was still running. It played the same 47 seconds on repeat. This is Dr. Marcus Holloway. If you hear this, don't follow the sound. Beneath the voice, faint but constant, the ocean hummed. 5 beats, pause, 3 seconds. Some said it was interference from deep sonar. Others swore it was breathing. They found the Mariner's call drifting with no crew, the decks dry as bone, the recorder still whispering under layers of static. Experts called it a malfunction. Locals called it a curse. But some of the search team kept their phones off after that day. They said the signal had followed them home. Every few months, someone new posts about hearing it again. 5 beats, pause, 3 seconds. Always the same rhythm. Always somewhere along the northern coast. If you ever catch that pattern in a recording or in the hum of a broken speaker, remember the crew of the Mariner's call. Don't play it twice. Don't try to clean the noise. And never, ever answer it. If stories like this leave you thinking about what's hiding in the static, there are more true accounts waiting on this channel. Each one comes from the same deep places people shouldn't have explored. Keep your lights on, keep your headphones ready, and listen carefully. The next signal is already out there.